everything, and we'll get going right now. So yeah, as Mona said, my name's Matt Handy, and I am CCSN's social media and website coordinator. And today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about social media for nonprofits. Now, my main goal for this presentation is for you to all come out of here today with a bit deeper understanding of how you can better use your social media accounts. So over the past 2 years, I've been doing social media here at CCSN, and I believe I've learned quite a bit about what works and what doesn't when it comes to social media. So I hope you guys can come out of this presentation today at least a little more knowledgeable than you were before. I also want to make you aware of some very useful tools that help me on a day-to-day basis and can really streamline your experience on the web to make using social media even easier. So we'll get into an overview of my presentation today. First off, we're going to define some of your goals, so you think about that, what you want to achieve and how to go best about achieving those goals, as well as looking at some resources you might have available to help your cause. Then we're going to get into what I think is the most important social network for this type of stuff, which is Twitter, and we'll go over some strategies to use on there, what works, what doesn't. Then we'll get into Facebook, which is also a very important network, as many of you probably know, and I'll go over a few strategies for that. After that, we're going to talk a little bit about some other social media outlets, some mobile apps, and some general strategies that you should use across all of your social media. Then I want to discuss a few other useful tools that I use every day here at CCSN that I think will be beneficial to all of you. And then I'll do a final overview of what works and what doesn't on pretty much any social network, just some general tips and things that I think are will be useful for everyone. And then finally we'll conclude with a Q&A session for any questions that you guys might have at the end. So we'll move on to next slide here. And where do you stand is it's a very important question that you should definitely think about before you do anything. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve with your social media? What resources are available to you? And who exactly are you trying to reach with your communications plan? So we'll get into what are your goals here. So the first thing you want to do before you do anything online is ask yourself, why am I doing this? What do I hope to gain from it? So for example, are you generating awareness for a specific cause or event? Maybe you're trying to reach as many people as possible just to spread your message, or maybe you're trying to contact politicians or decision makers. So I believe that before you get started, setting out a plan like this is really important because it'll be easier to figure out how to achieve your social media goals once you know exactly what you want to gain from them. So next up, what tools are at your disposal? So after defining your goals, you want to have a good idea of what tools or resources you have available to you. So you want to first look at are you going to have someone to do this full-time or part-time, or will you spread out duties among existing employees or volunteers? Both have their advantages, but it's up to you ultimately to decide which is better for your organization. So, having one person dedicated to social media can be the right way to go, but it can also be costly. A good way to do this is have a social media person, but also get them to do other things within your organization that their skill set might be useful for. So things like, website content management or development or graphic design or something else. So just get them working on more things than just social media, and that would be pretty helpful. Next, you got to think about what kind of budget you want to put towards it. So there are things like analytics or tools like social media management software that can help out a lot, but they also cost money. There are lots of free options for social media management out there, but it really depends on how in-depth you want to go with this stuff or not, or whether or not you decide to use paid tools and programs. In my opinion, you don't need to be spending money on those kind of things to still do a good job, but they definitely can't hurt if you do have the cash to spend. Next, you want to look at what kind of content are you going to be posting? What kind of content do you have available to you? So do you have lots of original content, lots of photos, videos, news, events, that kind of thing? Or are you going to be using a lot of outside material, other people's events and news and that kind of thing? Either one is fine in my opinion, but an ideal situation is having a healthy mix of both original and outside content. And now if you already have an existing social media presence, that's great. That means you already have a jumping off point you can use to launch a new one or continue with that if that's the one that you're going to be using after today. This could mean maybe you have a personal Twitter account. You could let all your followers know that they should check out a new account that you're going to be making for your organization or something to that effect. And then finally, if you're starting to get involved with this type of stuff, attending workshops and webinars just like this one will definitely help you get a good idea of where you're at and what you need to do to be successful. So moving on here, how to engage your audience. And I think this is a really important thing to think about when you're first starting up and defining your goals and that kind of thing. So after you do that, defining your goals and the resources you have, then you have to decide what kind of content you think will be appropriate to achieve those goals and reach your target audience. So again, it's this question of original versus recycled content, and specifically what type of content you're going to use. If you want to inform people about a certain cause, you'll obviously want to post news or events related to it, as well as multimedia like videos or pictures. And like I said before, a healthy mix of different types of content, as well as a mix between your own content and outside content, is your best bet to keep people interested in you and your organization. You also want to try and include graphics, links, hashtags in your posts, that kind of thing, as those three things specifically are proven to have higher engagement rates. So engagement being, like retweets on Twitter or comments on Facebook, that kind of thing. So those have higher engagement rates than posts that don't have them. So I'll speak a little more in depth about those coming up in a minute. And then you also want to be as consistent as possible, unlike the cat in the comic there that sleeps 20 hours a day. Now we'll move on to the most important social networks and why I think you should use them. So first off, we'll go into Twitter here, and I want to talk about what works with that. So first up, we have hashtags, which is one of the reasons why Twitter is so great for spreading a word about a cause. Hashtags can help you maximize your reach by being able to find others who are involved with your cause already. So, and then you can even create your own hashtag too and tell your followers to use it when they tweet about your cause or your organization. So, for example, we started running a bone health and cancer campaign last year in order to spread the word about the importance of bone health and cancer. So naturally, we use the hashtag bone health and cancer in order to spread the word about it and get everyone on Twitter involved. And then there's the example on the screen here where I used some more general hashtags that would maybe help get the word out about this webinar today, and so I used the social media hashtag as well as the webinar hashtag to try and get into those specific hashtag or those specific people who are going to be looking for those hashtags. So next up are Twitter lists, and if you don't take advantage of these, you should. So Twitter has this option where you can create lists of specific users, not technically people who you follow. It doesn't have to be people you follow, but you can have a list for anything on Twitter. So for example, what I do is I have a list that features a bunch of other cancer organizations, so I can look through their tweets to see what they're posting or retweet content from them that I think our followers would be interested in. So the great thing about this is that having all of those organizations in one timeline is really helpful, since we follow so many people from our account, and all the tweets in our regular timeline from the people that we follow sometimes will get lost in the mix. So this is a good way to find good tweets that I think would be that our followers would also like to see. And then, like I said earlier, graphics, really, really important on Twitter. Just think about it. A post with a graphic is much more likely to catch your eye than a post with only text. So here's where, if you have any experience with Photoshop, this is where it could come in really useful. So you can see in this tweet here, I made a really simple graphic for today's webinar. It doesn't have to be flashy, but just get the message across. So if you're tweeting, and even if you're tweeting just a news article or something, go grab a relevant photo and include that with your tweet. And I'll actually show you some stats on the next page that'll exemplify why you definitely want to spend the extra time making your tweets more visible with graphics. Just a few more things on this page first. Before that, though, same goes for putting links in your tweets. So people are much more likely to engage with your content if you give them some kind of action to carry out. So retweet this, click this link, find out more here, etc. It might sound kind of weird, but people on social networks kind of want to be told what to do, so they don't have to decide for themselves. So you post, go to this link, and people are more likely to go to that link. Then finally here I say moderation, because it really is the name of the game when it comes to social media. You don't want people to forget about you, but you don't want to annoy them either. So I'll speak a little bit more about that in a second. So Then just talk about the tweet that's on the screen here for one more second. I kind of call it the anatomy of a tweet here because it kind of shows what a good tweet is made of. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but it's just everything is in this tweet that I think should be. So it tells people the what, which is today's webinar, in the graphic there, and it tells them the where too, and then it shows them the when with the date and time, and the how, which is the link, and then the why is included if you click in the link if people want to learn more. So it includes all of those things that people want to know. Now we'll get into some things to avoid when you're posting on Twitter. So first off, inconsistency is your enemy. The whole idea of social media is to get people to associate your organization with whatever content you post. So if people don't remember you because you haven't posted in 2 weeks, then what's the point of spending your time posting? Even if you're only able to tweet once or twice a day and not even post to any other networks, I think Twitter is where your time should be spent. It's much better than going dark for days or weeks at a time. And if possible, it's important to tweet all 7 days of the week. So if you have a social media management program that can schedule tweets, I highly suggest you schedule some tweets for the weekend. And if you don't currently use a social media manager, I will discuss one of those, one of my favorite ones, on the next slide. So on the other hand, like I said before, you don't want to be inconsistent, but you also don't want to be spamming people's timelines. So what I mean by this is basically rapid fire tweeting things one after the other. So it's generally fairly annoying for users because they go to Twitter to see content from everyone they follow, not just you. So the only time it's really appropriate is if you're live tweeting something like an event or something like that. But other than that, you want to stay away from it. And then while I did say hashtags were good earlier, you just want to make sure, again, this whole moderation thing. Don't use too many of them in one tweet. In my opinion, 2 is enough and 3 is acceptable, but pushing it a little bit, and I generally stick to 1 or 2 hashtags per tweet if it's possible. And then if you're an organization that doesn't have a lot of original content, you may need to repost your content to keep your Twitter feed active. And, that's okay. And especially if it's about an event or something that you want to remind people of that may not have seen it, if you posted it the day before or a couple days before or something like that. But I'd only recommend reposting things maybe 3 or 4 times a week, depending on what it is. Obviously, it should be looked at on a case-by-case basis, but it depends on what type of content it is. So use your best judgment. Again, moderation plays a role here. So I posted about today's webinar, I think, about 4 times over the past 5 days, and that's about the most I would recommend doing with that kind of content. So next up, I say no call to action here doesn't work, and that's really important on Twitter. And not having a call to action in your tweet basically defeats the purpose of tweeting. So, at the very least, have a link that people can visit from your tweet. Like I said earlier, you have to tell people what to do, and a lot of the time they will if the content is interesting. So the easiest way to get people engaged is to, ask them what they think, or ask them to comment or reply or to retweet the post. And finally, you want to make sure whatever you're posting is consistent. So this whole mixed and muddled messaging thing. If you're only posting about cancer and then one day randomly post about cupcakes for no reason, your followers are going to get a little confused. So, if this cupcake post, for example, is about a bake sale to benefit some type of cancer research, that would be different. So, at least it's related to your normal content. What I'm saying is just don't say, I really like cupcakes, from an account that has no reason to say it. On that note, I should say it's pretty unprofessional to use an organization's account to tweet any kind of personal things, so try and stay away from that as much as possible too. Then the graphic on the screen here just illustrates the point I made about links and hashtags earlier. Your tweets are going to get a lot more attention if you use those 2 things. So you can see there 86% of tweets that have links are going to have a higher retweet rate. And then tweets with hashtags receive 2 times more engagement than those without hashtags. So you can see that including links and hashtags are really important to make sure that people actually engage with your content. So overall with Twitter, moderation is the most important thing to keep in mind. You want to be aware that quality is almost always more important than quantity, but you need to stay consistent in order to keep people aware of your organization or cause. And now, I was talking about social media managers earlier, and this one, TweetDeck, is by far my favorite, and I wanted to talk about it while we're on the topic of Twitter. And I'll be serious with you, TweetDeck pretty much changed my life when I first found out about it a few years ago. So it makes Twitter so much easier and enjoyable to use in almost every way imaginable. So, it streamlines all of your accounts and improves on basically everything that is wrong with the default Twitter web app. So first, there's support for multiple different Twitter accounts. No more will you have to switch between separate browsers or constantly sign in and out of different accounts. So it remembers every account that you have, and when you type a tweet, you can actually also decide which accounts or you want to tweet from. So that's really nice too. So you can tweet from same thing from multiple accounts if you need to. Then it also has customized timelines that it offers. You can create completely custom timelines with any kind of content you want in them, so like a certain hashtag or certain users or anything like that. TweetDeck also has real-time updating, so you never have to worry about clicking refresh on Twitter again, which is pretty annoying. So every time there's a new tweet from someone you follow, TweetDeck automatically updates. And then a very small user interface feature of TweetDeck is the night mode option. And if you're a night mode lover like myself, you can rejoice because TweetDeck has that option. You can see that in the screenshot there on the screen. And then another great feature it has is filters. So for example, if you don't want to see any type of content, certain keywords or anything like that, all you have to do is type them in, and it won't show you any tweets or content with that stuff in it. And then in the default Twitter web app, lists are really inaccessible. It's kind of silly. But in TweetDeck, you can have a column right along there with your Twitter feed and your mentions and all that with your lists in it. So it makes it really easy to access and keep track of. And then one of my personal favorite parts about TweetDeck is its ability to schedule tweets like I was talking about earlier. So you could choose the day and time of your tweet, and TweetDeck will remember it. And you can close TweetDeck, you can close your computer, turn off your computer, and it'll still update at the time that you scheduled it for, which is really, really nice. So, and then the most important part about TweetDeck is that all of this is for free. So it's a great program, and if you use Twitter every day, you should definitely consider using TweetDeck. It's definitely made my life a lot easier, so that's great. Okay, now we'll get into Facebook, which is probably the second most important network that I want to talk about today, next to Twitter. So obviously it has the largest user base by far. It has currently about 1.4 billion, which it may be a little higher than that now, because I think that stat might be a little bit out of date. But I mean, it's huge. Your reach there has an immense potential if you advertise it properly. Now, the next point is a bit of a blessing and a curse. It may have all those users, but unfortunately, you have to pay Facebook to promote your content, and if you don't do it, not all of the people who have clicked like on your page are going to see everything you post, and that's an update that Facebook made in the past couple of years that basically forces organizations and businesses to pay them to make sure their message goes to everybody who's liked their page. So it's a little frustrating. But if you have the money to pay to promote your content, they expose it to not just your likes, but a ton of other people as well. So it can be really beneficial if you have the resources to do it. A great thing about Facebook is that you don't need to have a separate account for your organization, so you can actually link your organization's page to your personal account and give access to anyone else in your organization by adding them to that account, which is really nice too. And then there's also there's a link between Twitter and Facebook that allows, anything you post on Twitter can be automatically posted to Facebook. So if you don't have the time to post different things to both, you can post just to Twitter, and it'll also go to Facebook too. And then Facebook is great because your organization kind of gets streamlined along with a person's friends and family, so it's more personal and in-depth because of that. And since Facebook doesn't have a character limit like Twitter, it allows for stories and longer posts than Twitter does, so it can be a little more personal. Now, what doesn't work on Facebook? Now, it's going to be a little similar to Twitter. There are a few things that I think are a little bit different, but a lot of it is kind of the same thing. So again, spamming on Facebook is going to get you nowhere. It's just going to annoy people who see your content. And not all of your posts go to every person that has liked your page anyway, so it's not even worth it. From my experience, it seems as though the more content you post to Facebook, the fewer people actually see each post. I'm not sure if that's actually the truth. I don't know if Facebook actually has stats on that, but it definitely seems like it from what I've observed over the past year or two. So when you think about it, Facebook honestly should be more of a secondary option in comparison to Twitter, since at least on Twitter your followers see all of your tweets, which is nice. There were rumors floating around late last year, I believe, or middle of last year, that Twitter had been considering pulling a Facebook and making organizations pay to get their content to all their followers, but as far as I know, that never materialized. You can obviously promote content on Twitter as well, but it costs money too. So the point here is that you shouldn't exclusively be using Facebook, in my opinion, because your content isn't going to get seen by everyone who likes your page. So it's not really economical in that sense, that your content isn't going to go to everybody that you could possibly reach through that. And then, as with Twitter, again, inconsistency is going to be detrimental to growing your audience on Facebook, along with not making an effort to post original content and just not repeating the same things over and over and over. And then finally, something that makes a lot of sense for Facebook, but pretty much any social network, is proper formatting of your posts. And I was going through a organization called Nonprofit Tech for Good, and they have a bunch of articles and stuff about this, and they said that tweets that are written in complete sentences or Facebook posts or anything without abbreviations and therefore are easy to read are retweeted much more often or shared much more often. So also posts that end in either a period or a colon before the link are retweeted more often and thus tend to have higher click-through rates. So a messy, overloaded post just isn't worth posting. So you want to take the time to format all of your posts properly and make sure everything's correct. So it's really relevant for Twitter and Facebook. You want to make sure you always format your post correctly, double check for spelling and grammar, all that stuff. I know it goes without saying, but it's definitely worth reiterating at this point in time. And there, in that graphic there, you can see that this is between 2012 and 2014, and this is the percentage of online adults who use these social media accounts. So you can see, obviously, Facebook by far the most popular, and then there's LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, all next to it there, but Facebook dwarfs them in comparison. So it is definitely good to be there, but I still think it's more important to be on Twitter, and that will become apparent as we go through the presentation. So next up, I want to talk a little bit about these two mobile apps, Instagram and Vine, and they can both be used interchangeably. I would generally recommend Instagram more than Vine just because it's a little more versatile. And they're by no means necessary, these two networks, but if you're the type of organization that has lots of events, they can be really, really useful. So they can be great for engaging followers as well as creating buzz around your events or whatever your cause is. So Instagram and Vine are both excellent mobile apps to use to keep your followers across all your networks updated on what your organization is up to. So both of them allow you to post your photos and videos to Facebook and Twitter. So if you use the same username on both of these networks, if you're going to use them both, use the same username across Twitter, Vine, Instagram. And I mean, that's a good recommendation just for any of your social media accounts. Try and keep your branding as similar as possible. So use the same profile pictures in all of them, and use the same usernames if you can. That's another quick tip there. But both of them are used to keep your followers across all your networks updated, and you can post everything to all your other networks, which is great too. And like I said, these apps are more specialized than Twitter and Facebook, and you really need to have your own content to be able to keep them updated consistently. So if you don't have your own content, or if you don't have a lot of time or resources, these may not be the best for you, but it's just kind of something, an accessory on top of Twitter or Facebook that you could use. So now I want to talk a little bit about a couple of other useful networks and why you should or shouldn't use them and what works on them and doesn't. So first off, LinkedIn. I like that comic there. What is this, like Facebook for old people? Not really. It's for me, it's the Facebook for the professional world. That's what I'd call it. And it allows, for both company, personal profiles, so you can network with individuals as well as other organizations who may be interested in what you do. Now, the professional environment on LinkedIn provides is really excellent for fostering contact between like-minded individuals and organizations, and it can really be a catalyst in connecting with organizations and individuals who might be doing similar things to your organization. So another convenient feature of LinkedIn is that it allows your profile to essentially act as your resume. So it's simple to find possible candidates for jobs if your organization is looking for people, or volunteer opportunities. If your organization is looking for anything like that, LinkedIn can be really useful for that. So it's kind of a tool as well as a network. And it's a really large network. It's over 260 million users, so it's a little less than half the size of Twitter, which is pretty large considering it's only used for professional purposes. So, and it's growing every year too. So it can be really useful to be on there. It's not like other networks in that you have to keep it updated really consistently all the time. It can be used kind of intermittently when you need to use it and that kind of thing. But it's really good for fostering relationships between people and, using the connections that you can make there to get your message out. And then next up we have Pinterest, and it's kind of on the flip side. It's kind of more geared towards fluff style of posts, which essentially means that they're more thought-inspiring, surface level posts, quotes, pictures, that kind of thing. So I think there's definitely a place for organizations on Pinterest, and there are ways to leverage it to get your message out. Pinterest is a really great place for infographics, so that's what I have on the screen there is an infographic about posting photos and profile photos to different networks, so that it just shows Facebook at the top, but if the screen was really huge, you could see it goes all the way down. But Pinterest is a really great place for those infographics. As the format for Pinterest is really great for having really large graphics and photos. So if your organization has stuff like recipes or infographics or stuff like that, Pinterest is really great for those because of its format. And another quick thing to note about Pinterest is that you should post images to your site and then link those images on Pinterest, as Pinterest sends the users of the source of the image when they click on them. So if somebody clicks on your photo on Pinterest, it'll actually send them right to your website, which is pretty nice. So this will help get your website more traffic and hopefully direct more people there. And another thing I should mention is that it is a predominantly female user base. I believe the split is about 70-30 women to men. And so if your target audience is female, say like breast cancer or ovarian cancer or something like that, Pinterest can be more useful to you than if you're targeting both genders or men or something like that. So now that we've talked about a few social media networks that I think are the most important, I want to get into the core of my presentation and my 3 C's of social media that I think are the most important things that you want to keep in mind when you're posting and making accounts on social media and thinking about what you want to do with them. So first here, again, consistency. You want people to remember you and pick you out of a crowd, and one of the best ways to do that is by posting consistently. You want a healthy balance between quality and quantity, and finding the middle ground between those is your best chance to stand out. Second is conscientiousness. You want to understand that your followers and the people who are choosing to follow your cause or organization, regularly interacting with those people, acknowledging or posting their content is a really excellent way to foster, healthy relationships with other individuals or organizations. So, those relationships can also help you further your own cause by encouraging others to post your content to repay you for posting theirs. So you just kind of want to be aware of the networks that you create and all the people that are part of them. And then the third one here is currency. Now, especially with Twitter, but with any social network, people are looking for the most current and relevant information. So you want to make sure that all the content you post is the most current and most relevant information that you can possibly find, especially if you're posting news or events, unless it's something really interesting or something you're positive that not many people have seen. It's better to leave older content out in favor of posting newer content. Okay, now that we've talked about that, I want to discuss a couple of useful tools that I use every day that I think could be really helpful to you in your day-to-day life, posting to social media or updating websites or that kind of thing. So these aren't technically social media, but they're some of the tools that I use, alongside them. So what's a really good thing for screenshots is a website called Push. It's super easy to use. It lets you click and drag a certain part of your screen and then automatically opens the picture in your internet browser with a link you can paste or download. So it's much more intuitive than just using the default print screen on a Windows or Mac. So I definitely recommend downloading that. It's super easy to use. It's really, really useful. And then Dropbox. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of it. We use it every day here at CCSN. It's really useful if you have multiple people working on a project, because you can share folders between anyone who you want to give access to. So Dropbox accounts also give you a ton of storage by default. But you can also pay for business accounts that give you a huge amount of storage. And Dropbox also works well as a file backup system. So if you don't have an external hard drive or anything to back up your files to, you can just back them all up in Dropbox, or in the cloud, as people call it nowadays. And so you can access all your files from home and work. So if you need to do stuff from home too, that Dropbox really can facilitate that. And then finally, in the same vein as Dropbox, both Evernote and Google Drive are good apps to create, edit, and share documents between multiple people. I use Google Drive to create this presentation, which was really nice, and I'm using Evernote right now for my notes. So you can tell I do use this stuff every day, and it really is useful. So it's definitely worth checking this stuff out if you haven't already. Now, another useful tool that I think should be used by anyone in social media is Google Alerts. They're just another way that Google can do your work for you. So especially if you like to research and post news and events to your social media accounts, so in classic Google fashion, they scour the web for any kind of content you ask for, and they deliver you an email either daily or weekly with the most popular and relevant content they can find. So, between all of us here at TCSN, we use tons of these every day to find interesting news or events to post to our social media account or our website too. So, the alerts can be tailored as specific or as general as you want, and you can tell Google what content you like or don't like, and it will update its algorithms to make sure the content you get in your inbox is exactly what you're looking for. So, it's really a huge time saver, and it'll help you find really good content to post to all of your outlets. And next, we'll get into what I think works for any social media account. And I have a tweet here from the Survivors Day account, which is there's some great people doing great things, and they host or help facilitate different Survivor Day events every year, which is the first Sunday in June. So everybody should be gearing up for that. It's in a couple months away now, I guess. We're getting into spring. So as a recap of the presentation so far, I just want to go over what I think are the most important things to remember when you're thinking about posting to your social media accounts. So first off, having clear and concise messaging is absolutely essential. So the easier it is for people to understand what you're trying to accomplish, the more likely they are to engage with you. So you want to try to make sure all of your posts answer as much of the questions who, what, where, when, why, and how as possible. Obviously it isn't always realistic to answer all of those questions in one post, especially within Twitter's 140-character limit. But if you can't put everything in a tweet, it may not be the best kind of tweet to post. So just think about that when you're making your post. So you can't put everything in a tweet, but at least link people something that gives them more information if you can't fit all of that stuff in one post. Next up, well-made, relevant graphics or images will go a really long way in distinguishing your content from everyone else's, and I want to stress that as much as I possibly can today, because it's one thing that I haven't done very well in the past, and I really want to make sure that I do it now. It's something that I kind of just realized over the past couple of weeks that really does make you stand out compared to other people. So if there's one thing that I want to stress today, it's that you definitely want to include links and graphics and images with your posts, because they can really, really help your content stand out. So if there's one thing you take away from today, I want it to be that. It's always better to post less but have a higher post quality than simply pumping out as much content as you can day after day. And then again, I want to reiterate that you need to be consistent. I know I can be repeating myself a little bit here, but it's only because I want to drive home how important it is. So, it's a balance between quality and quantity is always good. You want to make sure that you have the time, you have the motivation, you have the money to make sure that you can post consistently on social media, or else it just is not going to be worth your time. And then again here, having links or a call to action is very important, especially in the nonprofit world. People want to get involved with what you're doing, and the easier you make it for them, the easier or the more people will get involved. So finally, something that I haven't talked much about, but something that I wanted to mention is story-based messaging or communication. So, anytime you can, bring personal stories into your messaging can really help people relate to it and want to get involved. So if you're doing some kind of fundraiser, for example, something like that, maybe profile a person and then make them the center of your campaign around that specific fundraiser and use their story to help tell people, why they should be involved with you and why they should be involved with this event. It can really, really help, especially through social media, because it definitely brings people in and gets them, just off of their timeline on Twitter and maybe to your website or something like that to find out more. And then I'll get into what doesn't work on social media. And you can see right there what doesn't work for Batman is that Robin keeps checking in at the Batcave, and he doesn't want him to know where it is, so I thought that was kind of funny. But first off, spamming. It's probably my #1 biggest pet peeve on social media. Quality is always more important than quantity when it comes to social media. So there's no point in posting 50 tweets if no one's going to read them. You got to make sure that your content is unique in some way, if possible, even if it means taking the extra time to include images, graphics, links, that kind of stuff. It's always worth taking more time to craft a better post than simply going for a larger volume of posts. And then, on the other hand, again, inconsistency will hurt you more than you know. So before you start a social media campaign, like I said before, make sure you have the time, make sure you have the motivation to ensure you can have a consistent presence online, because if you don't have a consistent presence, people are just not going to remember you and they're not going to care about what you're doing. And then, simply here, if you don't give something people to do with your post, they won't. They'll scroll by your post and forget about it once they find something they can get involved with. Like I said earlier, make it easy for people to get involved, and they will. Ask them what they think. Pose a question. Ask them why they feel a certain way, or post links and surveys. Anything that people can get involved with will help. So the more people can get involved through your content, the more they'll associate your organization with being an important part of their online experience, and they'll keep coming back and they'll care about what you're doing. And then another thing, one thing that I haven't talked much about yet is how you can deal with hate or trolls, or for those who are unaware, trolls are accounts or people on social media that exist for basically the sole purpose of stirring the pot or upsetting people. And the best way to deal with those types of accounts is to not respond. Don't give them any kind of attention, because that's what they want. It's just like bullies when you're a kid. Just use social media's blocking features, reporting features. If there's any kind of harassment that goes on, all social networks have those reporting and blocking mechanisms, so use them if you need to. The worst thing you can do is publicly respond to people like that, because it makes you look unprofessional, and like I said, you'll give that person exactly what they want, which is attention. So finally, I say text only doesn't work because it's boring, honestly. For followers, people want links and images. They want stuff they can interact with, something to do when they're online. So give them that stuff, and they'll be a lot more likely to interact with you. So I think that these words down here at the bottom are kind of words to live by, and something that I always come back to when I'm about to post something. So I say here, if it doesn't take effort, it probably isn't worth posting, meaning that if you don't have to put effort into creating the content of your posting, if you're just regurgitating something, obviously you have to think about it on a case-by-case basis. It's good to retweet stuff, it's good to repost stuff, but it's all about moderation. So, a lot of the time, if you're not putting effort on a day-to-day basis into what you're posting, chances are people reading it probably won't be very interested. So it's always better to take a little more time and take a little more effort and post stuff that people will be really interested in. So we're winding down here. It's about 22, so I've got lots of time for questions, which is good. I got one final slide here with social media and cats that you can check out if you want. I thought it was kind of cute. So we've reached the end here, and I just want to reiterate a couple of my most important points that I think everyone should remember. The 3 C's, obviously, you want to be consistent, conscientious, and current. Make sure you remember to post content regularly, quality content if it's at all possible. Interact with your followers and ensure you're posting current and relevant information. And then you want to make use of every tool available to you. Don't just keep doing the same thing every day. Like, keep looking for things that are going to make your experience easier, and keep getting better and and researching and that kind of thing. You know, the more tools you use, the better and simpler your online experience will be, and the more time you can spend actually making quality content if it's that much easier to make it. So, you know, I should also mention there's tons of free resources out there to help you get a better idea of what you need to do to be successful in social media. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been using one recently called Nonprofit Tech for Good, and they host webinars like this one, among, like, you know, articles and that kind of thing, and it really helped me when I was putting this presentation together. And then remember, like I said before, moderation is key. You know, you don't want to post too often, but you want to post often enough to ensure people remember you and your cause. So you also want to have a healthy mix of your own content and outside content. And then finally, remember that if it doesn't take effort to post, it probably isn't worth posting. So with that, hopefully this has been you know, interesting and informative for everyone here, and we really appreciate you all coming out to watch. I hope everything went smoothly. This is our first time using GoToWebinar, so I hope everybody had an enjoyable experience. And now there is a little chat section in the bottom right of your screen there that you can type. There's a question section too, so you can type into any of those, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. And here's some contact information on the screen too for me right there. So you guys can contact me or contact us at CCSN if you have any more questions or anything like that after this. I've been asked to share my PowerPoint presentation, and yes, I will be sharing this in addition to posting this recording of this webinar. It'll be on our YouTube, and that'll be linked on our website and our social media either later today or early tomorrow, depending on when I can get that up. And the PowerPoint presentation will be on our SlideShare page, and you'll also be able to find that on our website and on our social media either later today or tomorrow. So we got that. Do you recommend any specific URL shorteners? I use bit.ly for my link shortener. I know you can, I believe through that you can pay to have a custom link shortener too. So if you want something that's not just their regular bit.ly and then the shortened link, you can actually use that to have a specific one for your organization too if you want to spend money for that. But yeah, that's what I use. There's tons of them out there, but that's the one that's the most simple for me. It's one click and you're basically done. So that's definitely what I would recommend. We'll see what else. If there's anything else here. Not seeing any more questions yet. Just want to mention that sharing partners' blog content is a great way to cross-pollinate your stories to different audiences. Yes, absolutely. And I didn't talk much about blogs today. I wanted to focus more on the bigger social media platforms. But absolutely, you know, any kind of sharing that you can do is always going to help you, from, you know, whether it's from other organizations or individuals or stuff. You know, like I was talking about earlier, fostering relationships between yourself, your organization, and other organizations by reposting their content or retweeting their content, or you know, sharing, like you said, sharing blog content. Any kind of sharing between organizations is always a good thing. So yeah, for sure. Thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate it. Does CCSN have a social media policy that may be shared, i.e. guidelines for best practice? We don't have one that we could share. You know, I kind of go off of what I know is to be best. But that being said, there are tons of guidelines for best practices online. It can't be hard to find them. And if you wanna send me an email, I can definitely find something for you if you're not sure where to look. So definitely, if you want to figure out some guidelines for best practices, let me know, and I can help you out in any way that I will be able to. How often should you post on Facebook? You talked about Twitter, but not. Yeah, okay. So I tried to make the presentation, you know, posting guidelines for any social media account. Now, how often should you post is a very subjective question. It all depends on the kind of content that you have. With Facebook, you know, you can post as many times as you want during the day, but just don't spam people. I mean, it's really hard to tell you exactly like a concrete number of things to post. But you know, for our Facebook, I don't think we would post more than 15 or 20 things a day, and even that's probably on the higher end of things. It all depends on what you're posting. If you're posting news and events, you can probably post a few more of those because there's more things there that you're going to be able to post and get people interested in. But I'd say like less than 10 things, maybe 5 things. Like I said before, you want to focus on having that quality content. So if you have less posts, you want to have a higher quality. So include those graphics and links and images and that thing. But I'd say if you're going to be posting just general things to Facebook, maybe 5 to 10 things a day is probably a good place to start, and you can kind of gauge your engagement and from there. So a good way to quantify how many things you should be posting is the level of engagement you're getting on each post. So if you find that you're getting a really, really small amount of engagement on each of your posts, maybe try cutting down a little bit and seeing if your engagement goes up on each post from there. So it's one of those things where you have to be kind of flexible and be willing to do some trial and error and figure it out from there. Got another question here. What would you do if you had preset tweets ready to be sent out and a crisis happened? For example, if you're a company in Ottawa and during the shooting you had tweets about ice cream sales going on, seems very disrespectful that way, even if it isn't intentional. Yeah, that's definitely something that you want to be aware of. So a lot of the time, what I'll do is I have kind of a thing where I don't like to schedule things more than a few hours in advance a lot of the time, so it kind of minimizes the risk in that sense. So you always want to be risk mitigating in that sense. And I mean, if things do go up that you didn't intend to, if something happens and things get posted during a crisis, it's always good to just be candid about it after and say, we're sorry. We had things scheduled to post and it was just bad timing, and we hope everybody understands, that kind of thing. So just don't try to lie about it. Honestly, people are going to know what's going on. So just be honest, and I think a lot of people would generally understand how things go there. How does CCN evaluate / gauge success of social media? How do you set benchmarks? Now that's a thing that we haven't done much of in the past, and it's another thing that's really difficult to do, and it's something that's difficult for me to recommend to you because it all depends on your organization and what your goals are and how you determine success. It can be through how many people are going to your website through your social media. So if you're trying to get more click-throughs to your website, you can use analytic tools like Google Analytics to see if, since you've been posting on social media, has your website engagement gone up? Or, are you consistently getting more engagement with your posts on, Twitter or Facebook as time has gone on? Or are you gaining more followers or likes? There's lots of ways to evaluate it. But every social media, or at least Facebook and Twitter, have very detailed analytics built right into them that you can take a look at, and that's one of the best ways to go through and just see, are the numbers going up? And if they're not, then you got to figure out, okay, what could I be doing better to get more people involved and engaged? So I think just as long as there's a steady upward trend, you're obviously doing something right. But in terms of evaluating engaging success, it's really dependent on what your goals are. So again, if you want to talk more about this later on, definitely send me an email. It's right there on the screen, and I can help you with that. Let me just see if there's anything else here. I'm not sure. Let's see. What's a good percentage of engagement participation on Facebook? That's a great question. And again, it's one of those things where with Facebook, it's really difficult to tell because not all of your stuff is going to go to every person that likes your page. So I can't give you a quantitative number. I wish I could. It's really hard to tell, especially from my end here, not knowing everybody's organizations and standpoints and stuff like that. But you definitely want to take a look at it over time, like look at the trends and look at what your engagement is week over week, month over month. And it's not going to keep going up forever, up and up. It's probably going to peak at some point. But as long as it's still on an upward trend and not declining, you're obviously doing something right. And that's the best thing that I can tell you at this point. I wish I could be more specific and give you numbers, but it's really difficult to to quantify things from my standpoint here. So I hope that helps. Let me just see. Okay, I think those are the only questions that are still left. Just saying thank you. Yeah, anytime. I really enjoy doing stuff like this, and I hope that everybody can get lots out of it. I know I can't answer every question, but I do the best I can, and I hope that that you guys have, you guys come out of this more knowledgeable. Nothing on Vine, I guess. Chat later. I did mention Vine earlier, Vine and Instagram. I think they're a little bit secondary to Facebook and Twitter, which is why I spent more time on those. But Vine is definitely useful. I think 100% for events. It's really great. If say you're having like a marathon or a race or something, and getting people crossing the finish line or something like that. It's Vine is 6-second videos, so it's something that's really, really quick, and so I think something like that could be really useful. Great video clip within Twitter. Excellent. You can send it to yeah, exactly. That's you can send everything through Vine to both of those, which is really nice. They're saying thank you. Oh, no problem, guys. I'm glad everybody here really enjoyed it. Nonprofit for Tech seems to have really good guidelines. Yeah, definitely. If anybody's looking for more information about this kind of stuff, Nonprofit Tech for Good is a really, really good place to start. I should have mentioned that a little bit more during the Q&A session here. That if you want to learn more, they're a really, really great place to start. So definitely go check their stuff out. Photoshop is expensive. Check out Canva for a free graphics program with pre-sized templates. Yep, that's very true. Photoshop is definitely very expensive. It's not easy for some organizations to get. I could actually recommend another one as well, which is called GIMP, graphics image manipulating program or something. I don't remember what it actually is called, but it's a free program. It does pretty much everything that Photoshop does. It's a little more difficult to use, but I use it here sometimes. GIMP, it's just that, GIMP. It's an acronym, but that's how they say it on their website, I believe. So you should be able to find it fairly easily. It's a great presentation. Glad you enjoyed it. How often? Oh, that's from earlier. How do you recommend creating username consistency when you already have platforms under a mix of names? Is changing handles advisable? That's really tough. The good thing about Twitter is that you can change your username or your actual name on Twitter however often you want, but you can't change your actual handle. Now it kind of depends on how long you've been doing it, how many people associate your organization with that specific handle. But I'd say it's generally better to stick with the handle you have, change the name, and use that, unless you're really, really set on having a certain name and you've checked that it's available on all of the platforms that you use. It's generally better to utilize the name change feature on Twitter and then just stick with the same handle, because you'll retain all of those followers that you had before rather than giving those up, which can be bad. What do we got? Pixlr.com for web-based free photo editing. I've never used that, but so I can't vouch for it. But definitely, there's lots of good software, free software out there to use. So yeah, definitely. Let's see if there's anything else that I can answer here. Just going through old questions here to make sure that I haven't missed anything. I think we're just about done here. Hugely appreciated. Yeah, I'm really glad everybody enjoyed it. So yeah, I think we're just about done here. So I think we're about running out of time. Yeah, we got 5 minutes left, so I'll just continue. I think I got one more slide here. Yeah, so this is going to be available on our website either tomorrow or maybe even later today. And definitely share this with people who you think might be interested or who couldn't attend today. Yeah, definitely do that. And I think that's about it. Another note, how do you like your experience with GoToWebinar? I've definitely enjoyed it so far. It's a lot more user-friendly than our old meeting service, which was Mega Meeting. This one's been a lot easier to use so far, a lot more straightforward, and I think Mona can attest to that. I think it's been a lot easier for both her and I to get this up and running, and so I'm glad everybody else has had a fairly positive experience along with us today. And with that, I think all the questions are done. So I don't have anything else to say. I don't think so. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody again for coming on today and joining us in our presentation. And we're going to have a few more webinars coming up in April. We're going to send information on those very soon. So you can either sign up for our e-letter or just stay tuned on our Facebook and Twitter, and we will tell you more about those when the information becomes available. So yeah, thanks for coming today, everybody, and we'll see you next time.